graves with fire. When the drums fall silent and the earth is freshly turned, she arrives, not from the sky, not from the sea, from the grave itself. Maman Brigitte walks where the dead are laid, where names are carved into stone and forgotten by the living. She is the keeper of the cemetery, the one who knows every grave by touch, every bone by memory. Fire follows her steps, not to destroy, but to purify. She laughs loudly because death does not frighten her. She drinks, she curses, she dances among the tombs, because grief must breathe, or it rots the soul. Maman Brigitte is the wife of Baron Samedi, but she is no shadow to him. Where he opens the door, she decides what happens next. She listens to the dead, to the woman who was beaten and buried in silence, to the child whose name was never spoken again, to the man whose blood was spilled without justice. The dead do not whisper to Maman Brigitte, they demand. And when wrong has been done, she remembers. Her fire is not rage without reason. It is fire of correction. The fire that burns sickness out of flesh. The fire that turns curses back on those who earn them. The fire that protects the innocent and punishes the cruel. She heals with the same hands she destroys with, but justice is not gentle. When she mounts a body, her voice becomes sharp, raw, unfiltered. She swears, she laughs, she tells the truth without apology. Those who approach her with respect receive protection, healing, and strength. Those who mock her, exploit the dead, or harm the powerless learn quickly why the cemetery is not a place of weakness. Maman Brigitte stands between worlds. Feet planted among bones, head crowned with fire, she is proof that death does not belong to fear, that spirits remember, that injustice does not escape consequence. And when the living forget, when the powerful believe they are untouched, when crimes are buried with bodies, Maman Brigitte walks the grave at night, igniting candles that cannot be blown out, because the dead are never silent, and she is always listening.
In classical mythology, Memnon, the king of Ethiopia, is consistently described and depicted as black. Ancient Greek vase paintings frequently portrayed him with black skin. Roman authors like Virgil and Ovid explicitly referred to it as dark or black-skinned. In Greek mythology, Memnon was a king of Ethiopia and the son of Tithonus and Hipparchus and Dictys, the goddess of the dawn. During the Trojan War, he brought an army to aid the Trojans. Memnon is most famous for killing Antilochus, the son of Nestor. Seeking revenge for his fallen companion, Achilles challenged Memnon to single combat. Although warned that his own death would soon follow Memnon's, Achilles accepted the challenge. In the duel, Achilles slew Memnon by driving a spear through his chest. The death of Memnon mirrors the earlier death of Hector, another defender of Troy whom Achilles killed to avenge the death of Patroclus. After Memnon's death, Zeus was moved by the grief of Eos and granted her son immortality. The story of Memnon's final battle was told in the lost epic Aethiopis, believed to have been composed during the 7th century BC. His death was later described by Quintus of Smyrna in the Post-America and by Philostratus in the Imagines. Roman-era writer Dictys Cretensis records that Memnon arrived at Troy with a vast army of Indians and Ethiopians, numbering in the thousands and equipped with many different kinds of weapons. According to the account, the army exceeded even Priam's greatest hopes. Strabo preserves a tradition attributed to Simonides that Memnon was buried near Paltus in Syria. On the banks of the river Badas, Memnon in ancient art Memnon appears frequently in surviving Greek art. Vase paintings often depict him as a dark-skinned warrior, archer, or king. Modern catalogs have identified more than 100 surviving references to Memnon in ancient artistic and literary sources. One notable image depicts a black archer accompanied by 2 Amazons. Scholars have debated whether the figure represents Memnon himself or is an attendant associated with Memnon in the Post-America. According to Quintus of Smyrna, Memnon arrived at Troy shortly after a debate among Polydamas, Helen, and Priam concerning whether the Ethiopian king would come to the city's aid. His army was described as so large that it could not be counted. Upon arriving, Memnon was honored with a great banquet hosted by Priam. During the feast, the two leaders exchanged stories of their past victories. Priam declared that Memnon would become Troy's savior, but Memnon remained humble and insisted that true worth should be proven in battle rather than through boasts. Before the next day's fighting, Zeus commanded the Olympian gods not to interfere in the conflict because of the importance of Memnon's fate. In battle, Memnon killed Antilochus after Antilochus had slain Memnon's companion Aesop. Nestor attempted to challenge Memnon despite his age, but Memnon refused, believing it dishonorable to fight an elderly warrior. His respect for Nestor reflects the heroic values often associated with Achilles himself. Nestor then begged Achilles to avenge his son. Both warriors entered battle wearing divine armor crafted by Hephaestus, creating another parallel between them. Memnon as an ally of Troy and Virgil. Memnon leads eastern armies from Ethiopia in support of Troy. Virgil refers to the arms of Black Memnon, emphasizing both his orcs and Lengeria. Like Achilles and other great Hestus, Memnon and great heroes, Memnon possessed armors were crafted for him through the intervention of his mother Eos, or weighing of souls. To form between Achilles. Before the duel, a psychostasia, or weighing of souls, to determine which hero would die. Both warriors were granted extraordinary strength and endurance so that the entire battlefield could witness their clash. Eventually Achilles struck Memnon through the heart, causing the Ethiopian army to flee. According to later traditions, the gods transformed drops of Memnon's blood into a river. His loyal followers who remained behind to honor him were changed into birds known as the Memnonides, which continued to Zeus to restore her cleanse his tomb. Eos pleaded with Zeus to restore her son to life. Although Zeus did not resurrect Memnon, he granted her the ability to behold him briefly each dawn, as she opened the gates of heaven for the rising sun. John Malalas later wrote that Memnon was king of the Indians and arrived at Troy with a fleet and great wealth, eventually assuming command over the allied forces before being killed by Achilles. The Memnon Pietà, one of the most famous artistic depictions of Memnon, shows Eos holding the body of her fallen son. This image, often called the Memnon Pietà, survives on an Attic red figure cup dated to approximately 490–480 BC. The scene portrays Eos lifting Memnon's lifeless body while mourning his death. The image emphasizes both maternal grief and heroic sacrifice. Memnon and the Ethiopians. Ancient Greek and Roman writers consistently associated Memnon with the Ethiopian. Classical definitions describe the Ethiopians as dark-skinned peoples, living far to the south. Diodorus Siculus specifically identifies Memnon as king of the Ethiopians who bordered Egypt. Although the earliest version of Memnon's story survives only in fragment, later Greek and Roman authors consistently portray him as a great Ethiopian ruler and warrior. Philostratus describes artistic representations of Memnon as a powerful black warrior whose physical strength rivaled that of Achilles. He notes that Memnon's skin was black, yet carried a reddish hue. Not all ancient traditions agreed on his origins. The Suda, a Byzantine encyclopedia, states that while Memnon commanded Ethiopian forces at Troy, he himself ruled from Susa in Asia. Parentage and origins. According to Greek myth, Memnon was the son of Eos and Tithonus. Tithonus had been carried away from Troy by Eos and taken to the far edges of the world near Oceanus. Hesiod describes Memnon as the bronze-armored king of the Ethiopians. Some traditions state that Memnon was raised by the Hess on the shores of Oceanus. Modern scholars note that ancient writers sometimes associated Memnon with both Africa and Asia, because ancient geographical concepts of Ethiopia and India were often fluid. Memnon developed a dual identity in classical literature. Roman writers, however, consistently described him as black-skinned. Following his death, Eos mourned deeply. Some traditions state that she darkened the light of the sun and called upon night to conceal her recovery of her son's body. With the aid of Hypnos and Thanatos, Memnon's remains were carried back to Ethiopia. Eos then begged Zeus to make Memnon immortal, a request that Zeus granted. The Colossi of Memnon are two enormous stone statues of Pharaoh Amenhotep III located in Luxor, Egypt. Beginning in the 1st century AD, Greek and Roman visitors identified the statues with the legendary Memnon. This association may have arisen because one of the statues faced the sunrise and produced mysterious sounds at dawn. Ancient writers such as Pliny the Elder recorded reports that one statue emitted musical tones in the morning. travelers journeyed great distances to hear the phenomenon. Pausanias described the statue and noted that many believed it represented Memnon, who was said to have marched from Ethiopia through Egypt and onward to Susa. After an earthquake in 27 BC damaged one of the statues, the sounds reportedly became even more pronounced. Roman Emperor Hadrian and Empress Sabina famously visited the site Sisti hoping to hear the statue's voice. Later repairs are said to have silenced the phenomenon permanently. Legacy Memnon stands among the greatest heroes of the Trojan War tradition. Though ultimately defeated by Achilles, he was remembered as a noble king, a mighty warrior, and a heroic defender of Troy. Ancient literature, art, and later historical traditions preserved his image as the dark-skinned king of Ethiopia, beloved son of Io, and one of the last great champions to challenge Achilles before the hero's own death. Prime Earth, also known as Earth Zero, is the primary universe depicted in modern DC Comics. It was formed by the temporal merging of the disparate DC Vertigo and Wildstorm universes in an effort by Pandora and the Flash to restore the timeline to its intended nature in the aftermath of the Flashpoint event. It was later revealed that Dr. Manhattan used the cosmic upheaval to remove 10 years from the continuity, an action that had wide-ranging and unexpected consequences on a massive scale. However, his manipulations were eventually undone and the full timeline was restored. Ancient history: in the beginning, following the death of a previous, corrupted cosmos, a new universe arose beginning with a Big Bang. As this new reality was born, so too were the stars, planets, and endless, who each represented an aspect of this new cosmos. At the very center of creation, within the sphere of the gods, the Silver City came into being, a fortress for the heavenly hosts of the presence. However, the archangel Lucifer and I rebelled, resulting in a great heavenly war. Lucifer and his followers were cast out, becoming the first demons. Galad was transformed into an instrument of God's wrath by the archangel Michael. Galad was eventually stripped of his once more and cast out, replaced by another, Astar, who became known as the Spectre. The old gods arise, forging great and terrible systems. First among them was Olgrun, who ruled over his kin and the nascent universe until he was manipulated by his brother, Bjalter, into slaying his daughter, Ajna. Driven mad by grief, he warred with the other old gods for centuries before finally being defeated, though not killed. They split his essence into 7 aspects, which they scattered across the multiverse, each with a world built and cunning and puzzles to guard it from the unworthy. Olgrun's sorrow became the Revenant Queen, an unliving specter born from his terrible lament. The early cosmos: on the world of Cilia, the first sentient races are born, the beings who become the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos. Elsewhere, on the planet Maltus, a powerful race arises. They relocate to Oo, to the center of the physical universe. There came a time when the old gods died in a savage cosmic war. What remained of their world, Urgrun, fissioned into two, becoming Galactica, later rechristened New Genesis and Apocalypse. This fiery holocaust all but wiped out the old gods, save for a few lone stragglers, such as Gog, Pazurim, and the corrupted Niktar. On the world of Maleka Andra, the Martians arise. One of the Maltusians, Krona, becomes obsessed with the origin of the universe and builds a machine to peer into the past. He succeeds for a moment, unleashing devastation and inadvertently calling forth the cosmic traveler Volthoom. From him, they learn of the emotional electromagnetic spectrum. Volthoom's immense power overwhelms his mind, however, and he is driven mad. He is imprisoned by the Maltusians after a battle with the first 7 Green Lanterns. The Maltusians take on the title of the Guardians of the Universe, becoming known as the Owens. They set out to impose order onto the universe by many means. After a first attempt to bring order through a creation known as the Atmatentrum, they tried again, creating a robot police force known as the Manhunters. The Manhunters serve dutifully for a time before a malfunction leads to the slaughter of Sector 666, and the Manhunters turning upon their Oan masters. The Oans fractured, with those seeking another path to order becoming the controllers, and those who refused to abandon their emotions becoming the Zamorans. The survivors of Sector 666 creating a powerful version with ancient blood magic. The Guardians' powerful empire with ancient bloodmen seeking to bring their vast magical power to heal. Afterwards, they imprison them on the world of Ismalt into a singular mass known as the Starheart. Early humanity's magic system. In the solar system, life thrives. Yggdrasil, the world trees, achieves and forms the green and its representatives, the parliament of the inhabitants of Ma'aleka Andra, the world that will later become known to humans as Mars, colonize the solar system and become an empire. Arise. A divergent strain forms the civilization that becomes Atlantis. In another dimensions, the scientist known as Kelmasa attempts to peer into the dawn of time, like the Malthusian Krona. As punishment for his actions, he becomes pariah and is rendered, effectively immortal, forced to watch untold worlds die and be powerless to stop it. A supernova leads many of Earth's earliest sorcerers to flee, following Citrina into what would become known as Gemworld. Etrigan the demon, the first demon with no memory of heaven and thus no desire to return to it, is born to the demon Belial. Nabu, an exiled lord of order, manifests on Earth. On Krypton, a series of horrific alien experiments led to the creation of the unstoppable force that would later be named Doomsday. The High Mage of Atlantis, Arion, sacrifices his life to stop his insane mother, Magistra, from obtaining the 12 crystals of the Zodiac. Resultingly, he is unable to prevent the sinking of Atlantis during the Great Deluge at the hands of Eclipso. Poseidonus and Tritonus survive the cataclysm, adapting to life beneath the sea. Other Atlanteans flee to the extra-dimensional Skartaris, founding the city of Shambhala. Other early humans become great tribes. Amongst the Bear tribe, the young Anthro rises to prominence, defending his tribe from marauders like Vandar Ag of the Blood tribe. Vandar, alongside several members of the Bear tribe, most prominently Clarn Arg, are exposed radiation from a mysterious meteor, granting each of them forms of immortality. Vandar grew to become the conqueror known as Vandal Savage, and Clarn eventually became the hero and as the Immortal Man. An amnesiac Bruce Wayne is briefly deposited in this era by Darkseid's Omega beams. When a pregnant Neanderthal woman is murdered by her spouse, her soul, and that of her child, later to become Hippolyta and her daughter Diana. A tribe of early humans, in what will one day be called Germany, encounters an alien artifact known as the H-Dial. The new gods visit Earth and experiment on an early human, creating Oriclus, the Earth's first superhero. Kong the Untamed is born on Dinosaur Island. The time of the ancients, the Titans Cronus and Rhea give rise to several children. Among them is Zeus, who rebels against Cronus, transforming him into a gnarled tree within Limbo, and banishing the other Titans into deep space. Zeus becomes ruler of Olympus, and takes Hera as his queen. Centuries later, the new god Uxus convinces the Olympians to divide their essence, giving rise to the gods of Rome. A collection of Earth's earliest sorcerers form the Circle of Eternity. Among their number is the aboriginal thunder god Mamergan, who becomes known as the wizard Shazam. Elsewhere, Namo Balewa rules over the lost land, the Flame of Life. The alien race known as the Reach visits Earth, leaving behind the scarab Kaji Dar. Behind the scarab Kaji Da, a cybernetic artifact designed to snublant Ibis the Kempis Albistic, Prince Amenhotep's the mighty Ibis Vixers, becoming Ibis the Invincible. Prince defeated by the Mesu, known as the Black Pharaoh, Ibis and his wife, Taya, begin a 4,000-year-long period of suspended animation. In ancient China, a powerful mystical warlord known as the Devil Nezha rises. In turn, 4 champions rise to meet him, becoming the League of Warriors known as the House of Ji. Through great sacrifice, they are able to entomb Dessa. In the cradle of civilization, the Spectre, acting in his role as God's wrath, devastates the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Gods and monsters, the goddess Rama Kushna creates Nanda Parbat, a hidden Himalayan paradise. On Apocalypse, Yuga Khan reigns until his attempt to breach the source wall fuses him with the wall as a Promethean giant. In Egypt, Hegra then claims the throne. A member of the Kandaki tribe becomes the champion of Mamaragon. Pandora is manipulated into what would become known as Pandora's box, resulting in the release of the deadly entities known as the 7 deadly sins into the world. The sins are eventually re-imprisoned by Teth Adam, then known as the Mighty Adam. The being known as Qatar Deathbringer and the angel Shra reincarnate as the Egyptians Khufu Mat Qatar and Che Ara. After a Thanagarian ship crashes to Earth, Khufu and Che Ara are murdered by Hathset, who inadvertently entangles himself into their eternal cycle of reincarnation and rebirth. The mighty Adam murders the Circle of Eternity, but, unable to defeat his patron, instead weaves an enchantment upon him, keeping him sedated for centuries, a period during which he becomes known as He Who Sleeps. Later, the mighty Adam attempts to seize power in Egypt, resulting in a brief recorded in history as the mysterious user Care confronts Adam and exiles him from Earth, casting him into the depths of outer space. The Amazons are given life by a collective of Olympian goddesses: Aphrodite, Artemis, Athena, Demeter, and Hestia. The first Amazon to be born is Hippolyta, born from an ancient soul, one of the first women to be brought low by man. But she becomes their queen, ruling alongside her sisters Antiope and Atalanta. Surviving horrific violence at the hands of Hercules, they become the guardians of Doom's doorway on the Isle of Themyscira. Ramakon, Gamemne, Manitou Raven, the Anointed One, Sela, the Wailer, and Tezumak unite to defend a risen Atlantis as the League of Ancients. After 3,000 years of defending Earth from the forces of chaos, Nabu's human form reaches its end. In an attempt to heal, he places himself in suspended animation for more than 2 years in a pyramid built within the Valley of Ur in Chaldea. The Homo Magi take refuge in a concealed valley in Turkey, which is hidden by a magical barrier. The African warrior Princess Sahava is murdered in ancient Madagascar. The Druid priest, later known as Black Burr Thorn, witnesses the slaughter of his tribe at the hands of the Romans before he himself is trapped deep within Earth. The Roman centurion Longinus uses his spear to pierce the chest of Jesus Christ. In later years, this spear will become known as the Spear of Destiny. The Common Era, the Golden Gladiator, fights heroically in the Roman Colosseum. Marcus Aurelius, the man who will someday become the hero known as the Alpha Centurion, leaves Earth to represent Rome in an alien cultural exchange. With Merlin, is given the Eternity Book by his father the demon Belial and forges to knights the kingdom of Camelot. Among them are Sir Justin, the Shining Knight, and Brian Kent, known as the Silent Knight. Sue, half-sister of King Arthur, takes the name Xanadu. As Camelot falls a halt, Merlin binds his demon half-brother Etrigan to his human servant, Jason Blood. The mage Constantine sires 3 sons, ultimately sacrificing all 3 in his pursuit of the arcane. The Starheart falls to Earth in China during the dawn of the Song dynasty, where it is fashioned into a lamp by a mystic, who is later killed by local villagers. In defiance of his mother Hegra, Uxas secretly marries Suli. Fearing that the gentle Suli provoked weakness in Uxas' heart, Hegra has the torturer Desaad murder Suli. After her death, Hegra commands that her son marry Tigra. Uxas gains control of the Omega Force and slays his brother Drax, taking the god named Darkseid. He places his pregnant wife a hyperfreeze prison and claims the throne of Apocalypse for himself. The hero known as the Viking Prince sailed unknown seas in search of high adventure. Arax, son of Thunder, is rescued by Vikings exploring America and brought to Europe, where he becomes a swashbuckling adventurer. A motley crew of adventurers and immortals including Jason Blood, Madame Xanadu, the Horsewoman, Al Jabber, and the Amazon exile known as Exaristos, form the Demon Knights as their paths converge in a small village in the path of the horde of the questing queen and the ancient mage, Mordru. They later battle Morgaine Le Fay and Lucifer himself. Over the following decades, the group falls apart and later reassembles to defeat the first vampire, Cain, and his undead horde as it marches on Paradise Island. They ultimately discover the hiding place of the Holy Grail. The new god Haemon discovers the X-element and develops the technology known as the Mother Box and the Boom Tubes. An early Mother Box forms the core of the Celestial City, also known as Supertown, built as a citadel for the citizens of Galactica above the largely ruined New Genesis. The Manhunters extend their influence to Earth, giving rise to the cult of the Manhunters. On Ma'alika Andra, the White Martians rise to prominence. In England, Robert Fitzhugh becomes the outlaw known as Robin Hood. The first Brother Blood arises in Zandia. Elsewhere, a group of pacifists led by the mystic Azar establish the other-dimensional city of Azarath. In the lands that would eventually become known as North America, Saganawana is empowered by a fallen Meteorite and becomes super chief. In Africa, a troop of gorillas come into contact with an extra-dimensional power that granted them super intelligence and psychic abilities. Subsequently, they build a futuristic city that would come to be called Gorilla City, living in secret for centuries. The Renaissance in Arabia, a physician discovers Lazarus' mysterious pools that could prolong life and resurrect those who have died. He becomes Ra's al Ghul, the immortal master of the notorious League of Assassins. In time, he also creates the League of Shadows and the League of Lazarus. He develops lasting feuds with fellow Immortal Savage and the Orgum family. The Order of Saint Dumas, an offshoot of the Knights Templar, recovers a fallen Mother Box from a battle between 2 new gods, They use this device to imbue semi-monstrous agents inspired by Christian angels, most notably the Azraels, with a supernatural ability and discipline known as the System. Andrew Bennett, a minor English nobleman, is cursed with vampirism. He spends the next 4 centuries combating the cult of the Blood Red Moon, which is led by his former love Mary Seward, also a vampire thanks to Bennett, who calls herself Mary the Queen of Blood. The colonial era in America. The city that would come to be known as Gotham is founded, sometimes referred to in those early days as Gotham. A time lost, amnesiac Bruce Wayne finds his way into this era. One of their victims, the Wayne family for generations, curses the Waynes born in Limbo Town. Keith Everett, the Witch Boy, is born in Limbo Brigands. Ma-Le-Fa Ak, the evil brother of Jean Johns, creates Ronmir's curse. Late H. Ronmir's curse, releasing it upon his kinsman on Mars. The telepathic flame plague spreads through the Martian populace, wiping the planet clean. Among the dead are Johns' family. As he wanders through the ruins, Johns is pulled through time and space by an invention created by a scientist many centuries since. Englishman John Valor sets sail as the Black Pirate, eventually succeeded by his son, Justin Valor. Captain Fear also prowls the seas. During America's Revolutionary War, the legends of Tomahawk, his partners Dan Hunter and Miss Liberty, and Tomahawk's Rangers spread across the burgeoning frontier. Tomahawk and his wife, Moon Fawn, raise a son who eventually becomes the pacifist frontiersman known to the world as Hawk, son of Tomahawk. Elsewhere, a Caucasian child with red hair is taken in by a Native American tribe and raised as Firehair. Max Crandall is granted superhuman speed and a connection to the cosmic speed force by a Blackfoot shaman. He uses his skills to protect natives and settlers from each other as Awahota, or the Windrunner.
The myth of Neith. In the multifaceted pantheon of the ancient Kemetic deities, one goddess stands out as a formidable and revered force: Neith, the protector goddess of war and hunting. Her statues were commanding and striking, depicting her with a muscular frame and fierce expression. In one hand she held a bow with an arrow ready to strike, while in the other she carried a shield emblazoned with powerful symbols. Neith was not just a goddess of brute strength. She was also known for her wisdom and strategic thinking in battle. She was seen as a protective figure by her worshippers, always watching over them and guiding them towards victory. This ancient Kemetic goddess holds a revered place in the society's history, with her worship spanning back to the pre-dynastic era. Her primary connection was with the city of Sais, situated along the Nile Delta, where her devotees built their religious center dedicated to her. Her name itself, Neith, translates to the one who is, an enigmatic title that symbolizes her multifaceted character and importance among the other deities of Kemetic beliefs. In some depictions, she is shown as a formidable warrior goddess, equipped with an enchanted and divine bow and arrows that themselves were woven from the thread of reality. She often wears a red crown adorned with crossed arrows, symbolizing her ties with combat, but more importantly, safeguarding. She was revered as the deity of hunting, weaving, and warfare. And she was also seen in some circles as the creator goddess, often connected to the original waters of disorder from which all existence sprung forth. Now, legend has it that Neith, this divine goddess, was the ultimate protector of both gods and humanity. It is said that she crafted the very world we live in, shaping every single living being with her powerful hands. Her presence was sought after to safeguard even the mighty sun god Ra on his daily voyage across the sky, ensuring his safe passage so that he could bring light and warmth to all. She was revered as the guardian of life, ensuring balance and harmony among all beings. Neith was a Neter held in very high esteem, her name spoken with reverence and awe. She was known not only for her strength and power, but also for her wise and compassionate nature. Stories of her teachings and guidance spread far and wide as she was revered as a teacher of knowledge and wisdom. In the myths surrounding her, she is credited with inventing both writing and the Mythology, as well as weaving and other crafts. The people believed that she bestowed these gifts upon them to help guide them through their daily lives. She was seen as the patron goddess of weavers, and those skilled in the craft would often invoke her blessings for success in their work. Her presence could be felt in every loom, every thread carefully spun into intricate patterns under her watchful eye. Neith not only held the role of protector and teacher, but she was also closely tied to the afterlife and the journey of the soul to the underworld. Her presence exuded a sense of maternal warmth as she guided departed souls on their final voyage. She watched over them with a loving gaze, ensuring their safe passage into the realm of the gods beyond. Her gentle touch provided comfort to those who were leaving behind the earthly realm, granting them peace in their transition to the divine world. The weight of her responsibility was evident in her strong yet nurturing stance, embodying both strength and compassion in her role as guardian of the afterlife. A goddess of war and protection was a complex deity, having both a benevolent nature but holding back a fierce and formidable power within. When ancient Kemet faced danger and conflict, her name was evoked to bring forth defense and victory. Her presence towered over the battlefield like a mighty colossus with unbreakable determination. In one hand she held, as ever, her bow, made of pure gold, its arrows capable of piercing any obstacle. In the other she often held a staff imbued with ancient magic, ready to unleash spells and curses upon her enemies. Within the chaos of battle, Neith's divine wrath manifested itself, leaving destruction in its wake as she fought fiercely for her people's survival. In ancient Kemetic art, Neith is often depicted with that fierce visage as a triumphant goddess. One of the most well-known portrayals shows her standing with one foot planted firmly on the head of a vanquished enemy. This image exudes power and strength, symbolizing Neith's victory over chaos and evil. It serves as a constant reminder of her role as a protector and the defender of the Kemetic people. Her expression is stern and determined, her stance unwavering as she stands guard against any threats to her people's well-being. The intricate details of her headdress and garments add to her regal appearance, showing her divine status among the gods, or nectars as they were called. This depiction truly captures the essence of Neith as a formidable deity who will stop at nothing to ensure her people's prosperity. Now, Neith is also closely associated with the goddess Sekhmet, another powerful warrior goddess known for her role in warfare and destruction. Now, both goddesses were often invoked in times of war and conflict, with Sekhmet representing the fierce and vengeful aspect of war, while Neith embodied the protective and nurturing side. The myth of Neith reveals a complex and multifaceted deity who plays a vital role in ancient Kemetic religion and in society. As the protector goddess of war and hunting, she was revered for her strength, wisdom, and protective nature. Her statues hang to this day, always showing her ever-present bow slung on her back and her arrows at the ready. She was seen as a fierce warrior, capable of defending Kemet and its people from her enemies. Her braided hair adorned with feathers and symbols of power. But Neith was also known as a wise and compassionate teacher, depicted with a scroll in one hand and offering guidance to those seeking knowledge or direction. In death, she guided the souls of the deceased to the afterlife, her presence like a comforting beacon in the darkness. Neith's enduring legacy as a powerful and benevolent goddess continues to be celebrated and revered by modern scholars and enthusiasts of ancient Kemetic mythology, eager to uncover more about this enigmatic deity, the warrior goddess, blessed with the greatest of beauty and the sharpest of minds. Ogun clears the path for civilization. Before cities learn to rise, before roads learned the patience of footsteps, before iron learned obedience beneath the hammer, the world was wild. And the wild did not welcome the gods. The forest was older than memory, thicker than intention, a living wall of root and thorn and shadow. It swallowed light itself. It erased direction. It devoured anything that entered without its permission. So the gods descended to earth with a purpose, to shape, to order, to build. But even they were stopped cold at the forest's edge. Purpose means nothing when the land itself refuses you. The forest did not fear thunder. It did not bow to wisdom. It did not care for beauty or prophecy. This was not a forest you reasoned with. This was not a land you charmed. This was a thing that resisted existence itself. So the gods argued. Some said, "Let us reason with it." Others said, "Let us wait." And a few whispered, "Perhaps this world is not meant to be tamed." All this transpired until Ogun stepped forward. Ogun, called Ogun Orniri, Lord of Iron. Ogun Alada, Master of the Blade. Ogun Onikola, Breaker of Stone. The Path Opener, the Forge Master, the Eater of Fire and Blood. He was war before armies, labor before industries, iron before it learned its own name. Where other gods carried crowns or symbols, Ogun carried tools. A heavy axe with purpose, a blade darkened by forged smoke and sacrifice, hammer and anvil bound to his spirit. Ogun was not simply a god of war, he was a god of work. Of the strike, of the cut, of the moment something raw becomes something shaped, the greatest forger in all existence, able to pull iron from stone and obedience from chaos. When Ogun approached the forest, it did not tremble, it did not bow, it did not even recognize him. So Ogun did not speak. He stepped into the forest and raised his axe. The first blow split a tree that had never fallen. Sap spilled like blood from the roots of the earth. The forest recoiled, then attacked. Vines wrapped his arms. Thorns tore his flesh. Roots rose like serpents to pull him down. And Ogun laughed and swung again. Each strike was deliberate, not wild, not careless. This was the precision of destruction. Trees cracked like bones, stones shattered beneath iron. The jungle screamed as centuries of dominance were reduced to splinters and smoke. Fire followed him, not as chaos, but as a tool. Controlled, intentional, necessary. Ogun burned what could not be cut. Cut what could not be moved, and bled when the forest demanded payment. And the forest always demanded payment. Every step forward was earned, every clearing soaked into the soil. This was not creation through harmony, this was creation through force. And the gods watched in silence as Ogun carved a wound through the world, wide enough for them to follow. And then the forest finally broke. When sunlight struck ground that had never known warmth, something new was born, a path, not just a road of earth and ash, but the first idea of civilization. Villages followed the clearing. Homes rose where trees once ruled. Metal learned its purpose in human hands. Axes became tools. Tools became weapons. Weapons became protection. And every one of them belonged to Ogun. He became the guardian of the blacksmiths, of roads and bridges, of laborers whose hands bled for progress. But the people quickly learned something else. The God who opens the path is also the God who can close it. Ogun did not soften once the work was done. He walked among the warriors and the executioners, among hunters and kings, among builders who knew that every act of creation risked destruction. He blessed the plow, the blade that defined the harvest. He guarded the road, and the blood spilled upon it, so the people feared him. They poured palm wine at his shrines, left iron tools as offerings, spoke his name with respect, if not affection. But Ogun does not protect innocence. He protects function. He does not promise peace, he promises progress. And progress is never gentle. Ogun reminds the world of truth and it prefers to forget. Civilization is born in violence. Order is carved, not gifted, and every tool carries the memory of the blade that made it possible. The forest did not open willingly, it was forced open, and the road still remembers the God who cut into its existence. Packhead, the hunter of the desert, the lioness of the cliffs. There are gods that live in temples with crowds and incense and choirs. And then there are gods who live where human voices don't carry. Packhead is not a goddess of the marketplace. She is not a goddess of polite prayer. Packhead is a lion goddess in the margins, the heat haze between dunes, the shadow tucked under cliff, the quiet tension in the spine that tells a hunter something is watching you back. Some deities come from stories. Packhead comes from presence, and presence is older than any story ever written down. She is known as she who scratches, she who rips, or she who hunts. And she belongs in the edge of Kemet, the place where the Nile can't soften. You can see her in the wide desert bowl under the sun, bleached pale blue, almost white. The sun is so blunt, it doesn't feel like light, it feels like weight. The sand isn't one color, it is layered, gold, amber, clay red, bone dust. And there are stone outcroppings like broken teeth. Cliff faces that look carved by time and sandstone, and old arguments between wind and rock. And somewhere in that cliff wall, cut into the stone itself, there is a place for her. A hollow that is not a cave, not a home, not a tomb. A mouth in the rock where a lion goddess can be fed with offerings and fear and respect. Packhead is a cliff goddess, a goddess you approach the way you approach a lion. Not loud, not fast, not careless, because if she is present, the desert becomes a hunting ground. Packhead is often associated as being a lioness. Now don't imagine an animal, imagine a divinity wearing animal truth. She is tall in the way that statues are tall, not in height but in authority, the kind of authority that makes the air feel organized around her. Her face is a lioness, clean, calm eyes, a muzzle that suggests restraint. Not the grin of a predator playing with prey, more like the stillness of a predator that doesn't need to prove anything. Her skin is a shade of sun-burnished bronze or deep umber, like the earth after heat. Not polished, not porcelain, more like living stone warmed by the daylight. Gold catches her cuffs, collar, the geometry of ancient craft. But this isn't decoration, it reads as rank. And her eyes, they are measuring instruments. They measure distance, they measure threat, they measure truth. When she turns her gaze on someone, it doesn't feel like being looked at. It feels like being judged by the wild itself. Packhead is a lion goddess tied to hunting and war, but not in the loud, marching drums way. Her war is precision, her hunting is law. She is the goddess of the moment before impact, the silence before claws, the breath held, the twitch of muscle under skin. If Sekhmet is the blaze, Packhead is the ember that waits. If Bastet is the hearth cat, the domestic guardian, Packhead is the wildcat that never belonged in your home in the first place. Packhead moves between those polarities like a blade sliding between ribs, soft and inevitable. She is the lioness outside the city order, the divine reminder that civilization is a thin robe worn over the animal truth. She is the goddess who hunts at twilight. Packhead is strongest in the hours that don't belong to anyone, not to noon. Noon is too obvious. Not to midnight. Midnight is too deep. Packhead belongs to twilight, where the desert stops shining and starts listening. At that hour, the horizon bruises purple and burnt orange. The sand cools fast. The air changes texture, like silk turning into smoke. You can imagine her then, a silhouette near the cliff edge, a goddess shaped like a lioness, gold catching the last light like fireflies trapped in metal. Her feet silent on stone, not running, not sneaking, but existing with the confidence of a creature that has never been prey. This is the Paquette myth, the lioness who teaches the world what it feels like to be hunted by the sacred. Paquette's worship is associated with places like Ben Hassan, cliffside zones where tombs and sanctuaries cut in the rock made from the landscape to feel like a library for the dead. And that matters because a cliff temple isn't a normal temple. A temple in a city says the gods are here with you. A temple in a cliff says the gods are here, you just happen to be allowed near them. The rock is older than your lineage. The desert doesn't care about your name. And the goddess of the cliff is the same way. She is not impressed, she's not bribed, she's not moved by performance. Approaching Paquette is like approaching the ancient truth. You don't negotiate, you align or you get corrected. Paquette's energy is quiet dominance. She is not screaming wrath, she is not chaos. She is controlled force, the kind of force that doesn't waste motion, the kind of force that doesn't argue. In mythic reading, Paquette shows up in a person's life when someone needs to stop begging and start moving with authority. Someone is surrounded by predators and has to become one. Someone is learning that softness without boundaries becomes a meal. Paquette doesn't teach to be cruel, she teaches to be real. She teaches the law of the hunt, which is not evil, it is honest. The desert doesn't apologize for being dry. The lioness doesn't apologize for eating. Paquette is that level of truth. The truth that makes people uncomfortable because it doesn't care how anyone feels about it. Her name is often connected to scratching, and this is the perfect symbolism. A scratch isn't always lethal. A scratch is a message. A scratch says, I could have ended you. I chose education. Paquette's scratch is initiation. It marks a person. It can be literal, claws, blood, pain, or spiritual, ego cut, illusions torn, comfort shredded. Paquette doesn't just kill prey, she kills falsehood. And if someone is living in a lie, Paquette is not the goddess that gently guides them out of it. She is the goddess that rips away the curtain. Paquette in the lioness continuum. It had multiple lion-headed goddesses because lion energy had multiple modes. Paquette is not redundant. She is specialized. She is the lioness of the cliffs and the borderlands. Hunting as sacred law, controlled violence, twilight vigilance, the wild feminine that doesn't seek approval. If Sekhmet is divine punishment, Paquette is divine pursuit. And pursuit is scarier. Punishment ends. Pursuit keeps coming. Poseidon, the earth shaker, the ocean king, the power beneath the waves. Now back when there was only blackness as far as the eye could see, there was the sea. When time itself was just beginning to awaken, there was the sea. And beneath that, there was him. Poseidon was never gentle water. He is pressure, depth, impact, the force that reminds humanity that it does not own the world. Birth of a god. He is born to Kronos and Rhea, children of the Titans, heir to a brutal cosmic dynasty. Like his siblings, he was swallowed by Kronos, imprisoned in darkness, silenced before he could even speak. But fate cracks open the tyrant. Freed by his brother Zeus, Poseidon joins the rebellion, the Titanomachy, a war not of armies, but of existence itself. When the Titans fall, the cosmos is divided. Zeus claims the sky. Hades takes the underworld. Poseidon draws the sea. not as consolation prize, as a kingdom, the dominion of the deep. The Greeks do not see the ocean as peaceful. They saw it as unpredictable, generous one day, devouring the next. Poseidon commands the storm surge, the tidal fury, drowning silence, and the trembling of the earth itself. He is called Earth Shaker. When the ground splits beneath cities, that is not geology. That is a god striking the floor of reality with his trident. He creates horses from sea foam, wild, muscular, unstoppable creatures. Even his gifts are force incarnate. The contest for Athens. Power must be tested. When the city of Athens seeks a patron, Poseidon answers, and so does Athena. Poseidon strikes the rock of Acropolis with his trident. A spring bursts forth. Power, salt, sea strength. Athena plants an olive tree. Sustainability, civilization, strategy. The city chooses her, and Poseidon does not forget. The ocean around Greece never lets them forget either. The Trojan War. During the war at Troy, Poseidon does not sit neutral. He sides with the Trojans. He stirs waves to protect Greek fleets. He shakes battlefields. He reminds mortals that gods are not mascots. They are forces. Even the might of the heroes bends when he intervenes. Wrath against Odysseus. But his most personal fury is reserved for one man. Odysseus blinds his son, the Cyclops Polyphemus. The sea becomes a prison. For 10 years, Poseidon hunts him. Storm after storm, shipwreck after shipwreck, island after island. Not random misfortune, divine pursuit. Poseidon does not rage quickly. He endures, and so does his anger. He represents civilization's dependence on nature, the illusion of control, the power beneath structure, the reminder that stability rests on something wild. He is not evil, he is elemental. The Mediterranean did not belong to Greece. Greece survived because Poseidon allowed it. When ships vanish, when coastal lines tremble, when the seas roar without warning, the Greeks do not blame chance. They look to the horizon, and they see a king beneath the waves, and his trident is never far from the surface. Bringer of breath, civilizer of worlds. Now the wind does not announce itself. It moves first, unseen, shaping what follows. Across the ancient lands of Mesoamerica, there existed a presence whose power was not measured by conquest, but by continuity. A force that did not rule through terror, but through order. An intelligence that shaped civilizations without demanding their submission. They call this presence Quetzalcoatl, known as the feathered serpent. A being where sky and earth converge in one, where motion is governed by restraint, where creation begins not with command, but with breath. He was not worshipped as a tyrant, he was remembered as a guide. Now Quetzalcoatl was never a single image, nor a single role. He moved through cultures and centuries under many names, each reflecting a function rather than a disguise. As Quetzalcoatl, he was the feathered serpent, the union of earthbound life and celestial motion. Feathers representing the sky, scales representing the ground, neither being dominant, both being necessary. As Ihikatl, he was the wind itself, invisible, essential, life-giving, the breath that animates the world, clears stagnation, and carries sacred speech from one age to the next. Among the Maya, he was remembered as Kukulkan, an echo rather than imitation, proof that his influence traveled farther than borders and endured longer than empires. These were not separate gods, these were aspects of the same civilizing force. His role as the civilizer. Quetzalcoatl did not create humanity to rule it. He prepared humanity to survive. He is credited with bringing maize from the mountains where it is hidden and transforming this sustenance into civilization. He established calendars so time itself could be measured, remembered, and anticipated. He gave humanity sacred speech, language not only for command, but for teaching, for prayer, and for recording. As Ihikatl, the wind, he moved the sun across the sky so the world would not stagnate in darkness. Breath, motion, rhythm. These were his domains. Where other gods demanded sacrifice to prove loyalty, Quetzalcoatl emphasized balance. Order was not enforced, it was simply taught. The descent into Mexiclan. When the world stood empty of humanity, Quetzalcoatl descended into Mexiclan, the realm of the dead, where the remains of previous ages lay guarded by these lords of death. Now these bones were not relics, they were potentials, and the rulers of Mexiclan did not yield them willingly. They tested Quetzalcoatl with impossible trials, attempting to entrap him in his failure. And in the struggle, he stumbled, and the bones shattered. Creation itself, it seemed to have failed again. But Quetzalcoatl did not retreat. He gathered the broken remains and spilled his own divine blood upon them. From sacrifice, not dominance, humanity emerged. Imperfect, fragile, and varied. Human beings were not forged as flawless instruments. They were born of loss and intention. And this imperfection was not a flaw, it was the point. The Age of Order. In later ages, Quetzalcoatl walked among humanity as ruler priest, remembered as Tolpitzin Quetzalcoatl, presiding over the city of Tula. His rule was defined not by expansion, but by refinement. Human sacrifice was rejected, arts and learning flourished, craftsmanship, astronomy, and ritual knowledge became the foundations of society. Under this guidance, civilization advanced without descending into cruelty, and this was rare, and rarity often brings attention. Where Quetzalcoatl represented restraint and continuity, Tezcatlipoca embodied conflict, reflection, and disruption. He did not confront Quetzalcoatl with armies, he confronted him with a mirror. And in that mirror, Quetzalcoatl saw not a god, but a flawed being, aging, mortal, capable of error. Temptation followed, sacred boundaries blurred. The myth does not dwell on indulgence, it dwells on consequence. Quetzalcoatl recognized that he had fallen short of his own principles, and instead of doubling down on authority, he chose removal. Exile and transformation. Quetzalcoatl did not cling to power, he left. Some traditions say he walked eastward towards the sea, others say he burned himself on a pyre. The details differ, but the meaning remains constant. He refused to rule dishonestly. The myth of Savitri and Yama, when devotion outwalks death. Now in Indic mythology, Yama is the god of death. This is the first mortal to die and the first to discover what lies beyond life. He does not rule death through terror or conquest, but through precedent. He knows the path because he walked it first. He is not a demon lurking in darkness. He is a judge, a keeper of order, a figure of calm authority. He rides a buffalo, carries a noose not as a weapon, but as a symbol of inevitability, and presides over the passage every soul must eventually take. Yama is not evil. He is not cruel. He is law. In Indic thought, death is not a villain to be slain. It is a function, precise, inevitable, and impartial. Yama does not take pleasure in death, nor does he rush it. He enforces it because the universe requires balance, and balance requires ending. And Savitri does not challenge that. She does accept that. She early on made a choice with clear open eyes. Now, it must be said that Savitri is a mortal woman. She is not a goddess in disguise, not a heroine born to destiny, just a human, raised with discipline, clarity, and uncommon depth of mind. She's known for her devotion, her intelligence, and her ability to listen more than she speaks. When the time comes to choose a husband, she does not wait for fate to deliver it. She goes out into the world and chooses a man, Satyavan. Their meeting is simple. There's no divine spectacle, only recognition. But before the marriage, a seer warns her of what is to come. Satyavan is fated to die within a year, and this knowledge is precise. There is no ambiguity, there is no hope of error. Savitri does not ask the prophecy to be undone. She does not look for another man. Savitri chooses her husband knowing his fate is to die within this year. Not because she believes that fate can be tricked, not because she expects divine intervention. She chooses him anyway. And this matters because devotion chosen with full knowledge of loss is not desperation. It is resolve. And as prophecy had foretold, the time of Satyavan's death arrives. There is no chaos in this moment, no omen in the sky. Life simply reaches its appointed edge. And Yama comes soon after, as he always does. He is tall and composed, dark as shadow, but solid as law. He rides no storm, he carries no fury. In his hand is a noose, not as a weapon, but simply a symbol of completion. His presence does not frighten by force, it silences by certainty. He is truly the specter of death. There is no drama, no cruelty, and no hesitation. Yama takes Satyavan's soul and turns to leave, carrying it towards its destined place. And Savitri does something that no one expects. As she grieves, as she watches death walk away with her husband, she does the only thing left for her to do. She follows. Not to fight, not to beg. She simply walks beside death. Yama moves along his path as he always had. It is not a road of fire or torment, but a narrowing of the world itself. The sounds of life thin out. What remains is quiet, steady, irreversible. This is not punishment, it is simply transition. And then he notices her, a living woman walking beside him. Not stumbling, not dragging her feet, simply keeping pace. And Yama stops. He turns, his voice is calm without threat or anger. This is not your place, he tells her. The living do not follow the dead. Savitri does not argue, she does not plead, she does not even reach for her husband. She bows her head slightly and speaks, not to challenge death, but to address law. You are Yama, she says, keeper of order, guardian of what must be. You did not take without reason, and you did not act without duty. And Yama listens. Tell me, Savitri asks, what is righteousness, if not the faithful carrying out one's role? And what is duty, if not walking the path one has chosen without deviation? And as he turns, she walks again without speaking. A wife who abandons her husband at the edge of death has fulfilled her duty. A law that does not answer truth, can it still be called just? Savitri does not accuse, she does not demand, she simply asks. And because Yama is law, he must answer. And this is the power of measured speech. Yama listens as Savitri finishes speaking, and for a long moment the path is silent. Then the god of the dead answers, not with a rebuke, but with retribution. Your words are aligned with Dharma, he says. You have spoken without deceit, without fear, and without demand. And it is fitting that such clarity should be acknowledged. Yama turns towards her. Ask me a boon, he says, one that does not concern the life that I have taken. And Savitri bows her head. May my father regain his sight, she says, that he may see the world clearly once again. Yama inclines his head. Granted. They continue walking, and after some time, Yama speaks again. Ask another boon. Savitri answers softly. May my lineage endure and prosper, guided by righteousness and balance. Yama does not hesitate. Granted. They walk on. The silence stretches, and the world grows thinner still. And then Yama speaks for the third time. Ask again. Savitri lifts her eyes. May I bear children with my husband, she says, and may our union be long and whole. Yama speaks the words as he had done previously. Granted. And only then does the law complete its circuit. Yama stills. For the first time, death pauses. Not in error, not in anger, but in understanding. A boon granted by law cannot contradict itself, and so without spectacle, without protest, Yama turns back. And with him, the path responds. The narrowing of the world eases, the weight of the air lightens, sound, long absent, begins to return. Not all at once, but gently. The hush of death gives way to the faint rustle of the wind, the distant echoes of the birds, and the soft persistence of life continuing. Color seeps back into the world, not suddenly, but naturally. The shadows lose their grip. The ground beneath their feet feels solid again. The threshold between worlds recedes, sealing itself without ceremony. And Yama releases the soul that he carries. Setyavin breathes. Life returns to him, not as a miracle, but as a correction. Law fulfilled, not undone. He opens his eyes and rises, steady and whole. Savitri does not cry out. She does not collapse. She simply moves to his side and walks with him, as she always had. Behind them, the path closes. Yama does not linger. He does not watch. The work here is finished, and he has other tasks to complete. And this is a true victory. Savitri does not defeat death. She does not break its rules. She does not demand exception. She understands the law so completely that it must honor her. Yama keeps his word. The boon stands. The order of the universe remains intact. No violence, no rebellion, no illusion of immortality, just precision. And this is why Savitri's story endures, because she proves that devotion, when guided by clarity, does not need to fight death. It only needs to walk with it, until death, bound by its own truth, must turn back. And as we have seen, Hades administers death. Hell accepts death. Osiris structures it. Izanami warns us not to cross its boundary, and Savitri teaches something even more rare. If you understand death deeply enough, you don't need to fight it at all. Sometimes the cleanest victory is the one where no one bleeds and the laws remain intact. The night on Route 3. September 19th, 1961. It's just after midnight, northern New Hampshire. The road is narrow and dark, cutting through forest that hasn't decided whether it wants to belong to the night or to the moonlight. Pine trees line both sides, tall and close, their tops catching just enough pale silver light to be visible. The air is cool and clean, the kind that sharpens your breath when you inhale. Damp earth, resin, the faint sweetness of leaves beginning to rot. There is no traffic, no distant glow. So when the car moves, it feels like the only thing awake. Barney Hill drives with both hands on the wheel, straight-backed, quiet. His eyes move constantly. Road, mirrors, tree lines, sky. He's not tense, but he's never careless. Night has taught him to stay attentive. Betty sits behind him, relaxed, talking off and on, letting silence settle when it needs to. She's wearing a simple dress, soft fabric, nothing fancy. Shoes meant for walking, not for running. The kind you forget that you're wearing. The moon hangs low and steady, not dramatically, not ominously, just present. It flattens distance, it stretches shadows, it makes the forest feel closer than it really is. That's when Betty notices the light. At first, it's barely worth mentioning. A bright point above the tree line, steady and white. She almost ignores it, but something about it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't twinkle, it doesn't blink. She points it out. Barney glances up, and the light moves. Not drifting, not falling, but adjusting. It slides across the sky with intent, correcting its position as if responding to them. The air inside the car feels heavy all of a sudden, like pressure before a storm that never comes. They keep driving, and the light keeps pace. It doesn't rush, it doesn't lag. It simply remains. Closer now, lower than it should be. Its glow is contained, dense, almost solid, not spilling onto the night, but pressing against it. and Barney slows. The road curves around Indian Head Mountain. The forest tightens. Moonlight breaks into pieces between the branches. So he pulls over. The engine cuts. Metal ticks softly as it cools. The silence afterward is immense. Barney steps out of the car, gravel shifting under his shoes. The smell of pine is sharper here, but it's mixed with something else, faint, metallic, like ozone. The air feels thick, charged, alive. He raises the binoculars. The object is close now, too close. Disc shape, smooth, no wings, no seams, no sound. It hovers without effort, light pulsing softly within it, not bright enough to blind, but impossible to ignore. And then he sees the windows, and behind them, figures. Upright, humanoid, still. Their faces are pale. Their eyes are large and dark, unblinking. They don't react when he notices them. They don't move closer or further away. They just watch. The gaze lands on him with weight. Not curiosity, not threat, but assessment. Something cold moved through Barney's chest, sharp and immediate. This is not imagination. This is not confusion. And this is not fear of the unknown. This is recognition of being outmatched. He lowers his binoculars and runs. Gravel skids beneath his feet. His breath comes fast. His heart hammers. He doesn't shout. There's no time for that. He gets back into the car and drives. Betty doesn't blink. She doesn't react. They pull onto the road, tires crunching, engine roaring too loud for a quiet forest. The light moves with them, keeping pace, floating alongside it as if the road meant nothing to it. And then the sound. Beep, beep, beep. It's not loud. It doesn't echo, but it vibrates. The steering wheel hums under Barney's hands. The seats tremble. The vibration climbs through the frame of the car and into their bodies, settling into their eyes, tightening the jaws. The air tastes metallic. Betty's ears ring. Her skin prickles. The forest blurs, and then there is no road. There is no sky. There is no memory. Time doesn't slow. It just disappears. When awareness returns, the car is moving. The road stretches ahead, empty and familiar. The forest looks unchanged. The moon hasn't moved nearly enough, but 2 hours are gone. Betty looks down at herself. Her dress is torn at the hem, fabric pulled and stretched. Dirt smears her shoes in places she doesn't remember stepping. Barney's shoes are scuffed too. At the toes, not worn, but they look dragged. His watch is dead. The second hand is frozen mid-tick. They don't talk about it, but they drive. When they reach home, the house feels smaller than it should. Too quiet. Out inside the lock. Inside, the familiar smells of wood and fabric settle around them. But underneath all that is something sharp and thin, like a place they didn't bring with them, but didn't leave behind either. Betty changes clothes slowly. She runs her fingers over the tears in her dress, trying to remember what happened. Barney sits at the edge of the bed, staring at his hands, his jaws tight. His shoulders stay raised long after there's nothing to brace for. That night, sleep comes unevenly. Betty dreams, not fragments, not symbols, but clear scenes, repeating. Lights without shadows, narrow corridors, figures who don't speak but somehow answer. A room where she lies still while something examines her. Not cruel, not gentle, but precise. She wakes with her heart racing and the feeling that something has just stepped away. Barney doesn't dream. He lies awake, listening to the house breathe. Every sound feels too close. When he closes his eyes, he sees the eyes again, unblinking, calm and certain. Days pass, then weeks. They try not to talk about it, but the silence grows heavy. Certain smells bring it back, certain sounds, the way the night feels when it's too still, when the air seems to pause. Sometimes Betty finds herself staring at the sky longer than she means to. Sometimes Barney wakes feeling tense, his fists clenched, his body remembering something that his mind refuses to hold. and life continues, but something remains open. Some nights, when the road outside is empty and the world feels held in place, it feels just like it did in New Hampshire, like the air is waiting, like the dark is paying attention. And once you felt that, once you felt the vibration settle in your bones, once you know what it's like to be seen without being known, you don't forget. You learn how to live with this lesson. And this is a story of the alien myth. It struck. In the high hall of Asgard, beneath banners older than memory, Odin spoke of convergence, of cycles closing, of stories folding back into their source. He called it wisdom. Donar called it surrender. He had been raised to protect the 9 realms, trained in warfare, forged in conflict. Every oath carved to him said the same thing. Guard them, protect them, do not let them fall. So when his father spoke calmly of Ragnarok as inevitability, Donar did not hear the prophecy. He heard betrayal. The argument rose like a storm. Words became accusations, accusations became fury. And in a single terrible moment, the thunder answered. One blow. Not a drawn-out duel. No ritual challenge. No prophecy fulfilled. Odin fell. The hall went silent. Donar stared at what he had done and named it an accident, a tragic miscalculation, a moment of anger. But he did not step down. He stepped forward. He took the throne. He swore he would do what his father would not. He would not accept collapse. He would not allow the 9 realms to fold inward. He would make Ragnarok impossible. So he went to war, system by system, world by world. He moved like a storm across stars. Reptilian empires were broken. Ancient territories were seized. Alliances were crushed. Resistance was disciplined. He did not call it conquest, he called it prevention. The stronger he became, the safer the realms would be. That was the logic. That was the wound. Ea was never meant to be strategic. It was small, gentle, civilian. A low-gravity world of aesthetic beauty and quiet skies. Donar had chosen it as a place of rest during his early campaigns, a world untouched by militarization. He loved it, and the reptilians knew this. Driven from territories on Earth, humiliated by Azir consolidation, waiting in the shadows, did not strike Donar's fleets, they struck his heart. Their assault on Ea had no military value. They destabilized the core, collapsed the biosphere, fractured the crust, and left it wounded, but not destroyed. A message. When Donar returned, he did not find annihilation. He found a dying world, still breathing, still molten at its core, and still whispering. He could have let it go, but he did not. Ea was not just stone, it was alive. A molten core pulsed with memory. The souls of its lost population lingered in its strata. Even Odin's consciousness, fragmented and reduced, echoed within its mantle. The world spoke, and Donar listened, not to the council, but to the grief, and he refused to let it die. He ordered the crust reinforced with God-forged superstructure, the mantle hollowed and stabilized, the core chained, regulated, integrated into engines of gravity and propulsion. Urban ruins were left preserved within the inner strata. The scars were left visible. The fracture remained, but a new citadel was born. It did not gleam like a new creation. It bore scars, an irregular spheroid drifting through space, visibly artificial, visibly broken. Its gravitational fields sheared enemy fleets. Its presence collapsed vectors and disrupted command structures. It enforced compliance with terrifying precision. Yet at its center, beneath its armor and reactors, the original mantle stone remained. Carved into it was the throne of Ea. Where Donar sat there, he did not bend cosmic law, he did not write reality, he held court. And he listened to the hum. The core whispered. Sometimes it sounded like wind through fractured rock. Sometimes it sounded like mourning. Sometimes it sounded like Odin. Not condemning, but advising. Cycles cannot be crushed. Strength cannot erase change. You cannot conquer inevitability. Donar heard weakness in his words, and so he hardened. He expanded. He enforced. His soldiers began to change. The wars were not like those of old. New weapons tore through divine regeneration. Limbs were lost that never grew back. Eyes shattered and remained dark. Immortals learned what permanence meant. Scars marked the Aesir. Ea marked them too. Yet Donar refused to mourn. He called it endurance. He labeled it resolve. He said it was protection. The city of Ea drifted as a symbol. Not merely a capital, not just a weapon. It was grief armored. Loss mechanized. Love hollowed and weaponized. A reminder that mercy, once violated, may return as permanence. Donar does not see himself as a tyrant. He sees himself as a guardian. He does not realize that in trying to prevent Ragnarok, he may be accelerating the very consolidation his father foresaw. The whispers remain, the scars remain, the citadel remains, and somewhere in that molten core, a father waits for a son to understand that protection is not the same as control. The thunder rarely listens.
Witches, a global historical and cultural timeline. Approximately 2,100 years before the Common Era. Location, Sumer. Event, early Mesopotamian incantation texts reference female sorcerers and curse rituals. Why it matters, establishes one of the early